What is good, everyone? This is your host, Deanna Radulescu with Label Free Podcast. Live your best life. You must live label free. As always, bringing you incredible guests from across the world. So sit back, relax, and tune in. My next guest is a former professional athlete. He's the producer and director of Bib TV. He's also of a host of a top 5% podcast called Billionaires and Boxers, and he's also a business and sports consultant. Please welcome Phil Pelucha. Did I say the last name correctly?
You did. You crushed it. Well done.
Welcome, Phil. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me here.
Oh, I'm excited. So you're a former professional athlete. What did you do? What sport?
So for me, football. For you, soccer. People look at me and they're like, "You don't look like a football player."
What team?
So I played for Manchester City until I was 16. And then I didn't get my professional contract with them, so I moved over and played in Central Europe. And then when I got medically retired, I went into coaching. So I was working with Utrecht and Voshosh and working on a coaching exchange program for them as well. So, but sports is even to this day is still a huge part of my life. I just don't do it on the field anymore.
Yeah. Well, I mean, unfortunately, it's not like life happens, right? And
Definitely.
so you are joining us from where? What part of the world?
Just outside Liverpool in the UK.
Oh, nice. So what time is it for you?
It is 4:10.
Okay, so not so bad. Not so
No,
bad.
it's not. It's not terrible.
I actually talked to a lot of people in the UK. I've got some clients of my own that are over there, and I love you guys. I've never been, but I need to go visit one.
You should visit, but you have to come during like the 10 days of sun that we have per year. That's when it's at its nicest. But it's funny because I'm actually the other way. So 80% of my business is North America, and to my knowledge, we don't have a single British client.
Yeah.
So we go the other way.
Oh, I love it. So tell us about Bib TV. What is Bib TV?
So it's shortened for Billionaires in Boxers TV. It's part of the Billionaire Broadcast Network, which we own. So two satellite television networks, two global radio stations, 4 magazines and newspapers reaching 26 million homes. So that's fun. The broadcasting for us kind of came as a byproduct of what we did, I guess. I mean, we were talking off air about our love of podcasting. I started my first podcast almost 15 years ago at this point and sold it 13 years ago. So we've grown and sold 2 sports podcasting networks and then started utilizing podcasting in business. The podcast then became a radio show. The radio show they got picked up by a television network. The television network then became a partner. Then I bought half the network and thought, this is fun. There's stuff we can do with this. So we've been doing that now quite successfully. Got to give you a little bit of exclusive, actually, because we're not even announcing it until next year. We have a new series being created in Southern Africa that's basically a cross between Shark Tank and The Apprentice, where I'm investing 25 million rand of my own money into 4 businesses across Southern Africa. There'll be 8 to 10 people in the final, and then we'll pick our favorite 4 businesses to invest in. And then they also get their own television series off the back end of that for the first 12 months in business with the investment and the mentorship. So it's going to be an exciting 24 months.
That's amazing. So why South Africa?
I think probably 2 reasons. So number one is it's where my wife's from. So that was where we met. Well, actually, we met on Twitter, but that was where we got married. That was where we physically met in person. I lived and loved in South Africa for a long time, and I think as a country, it's a country of the haves and have-nots. So there is no middle class there. There are, I mean, within a 1 mile stretch on a road, you go from Bel Air style mansions with a Benz on the drive and a pool to shanty towns with tin roofs and no electricity and running water. And they literally live that close side by side. And one of the things that I found is there are some incredibly talented entrepreneurs in the region who their ideas are never being actualized because of a lack of funding, a lack of introductions, a lack of opportunity. And being in a position to change that with our broadcast network and with our work across the established markets, it just felt like the right thing to do. We are actually doing a second season already, which has already been commissioned, and that one will be in India. But India because I have a team in India, so I've got to fall in love with the people of India. And again, I see a lot of the same similarities there. And funnily enough, only this morning was I on the phone to a producer from Jamaica trying to convince me to go and do the same thing there as well. So this might end up being an international thing. Although if it does, I'm going to need to make some more money if I'm planning on investing $3 million everywhere I go.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of money to invest. Do you get the return on your investment by like sponsors and advertisers? Or
Yeah, It's a good question. It typically pays for the content, but not really the investment. The return on the investment typically comes from, ownership or part of those businesses. I go in as a partner, I invest and take over part of that company, then give them an advertising budget. They get my mentorship, my network, my introduction. So typically, when we've done this previously, although not televised, the businesses have seen a massive return in terms of their increased revenue, their increased reach, their increased profitability, and that's the way we kind of make our money back that way. But by doing it televised this way, a lot of our kind of upfront costs and advertising costs and all that kind of stuff is typically covered by sponsorship, advertising, people who wanted to get involved, and even the networks fees themselves as they pick up the content.
That's amazing. So you are making an impact in the world in your own way. So I try to change lives of people with the show.
Mm-hmm.
Bring in great stories. So you're trying to change lives by empowering them with their business and getting them set up and heading in the right direction. So that's amazing.
Thank you. So my personal goal was one that I designed about 10 years ago, and I have a personal goal and then I have my life's mission, my life's purpose, right? And they're very similar in they kind of connect to each other. So the goal for the business was to empower 1 billion entrepreneurs. And I was thinking, that's a lot of people. So how do you empower 1 billion entrepreneurs? And it was never going to be one-on-one stuff. It was never even going to be through mastermind training. It was always going to be through content, because media has the power to reach the masses. So therefore we need to be involved in the media. And that was really where all this came from. And that really leads in nicely to my life's mission, my life's purpose, which is, I firmly believe, after goodness knows how many hours of meditation and trying to get to the answer for this, that I am here to create endless opportunities to champion the underdog. So that's why I'm so passionate about the emerging markets. We have the more you have, the more you help. So I like working with the West. I like working with the US. I like working with Canada. I like working with Australia and the Middle East. But at the same time, I like funneling profits from that into the emerging markets where we can help and empower and reach much more people with that. So, and frankly, without trying to sound rude, people who aren't really able to afford our program fees, they can't really come and join us for the things that we do and get the training one-on-one or in a group setting like that. So the content is often their way of doing that. And in fact, fun fact, I had the very first person contact me recently in tears, and it was a very emotional conversation, to ring me and thank me because they've been watching my content, they've been following my podcast, they've been following my interviews like this on other people's shows, and they've implemented all of the advice and rang me to tell me that them and their family thank me because they've just made their first ever $1 million.
Wow.
And they never thought that was going to be possible. So I know. So I genuinely got off the call and was crying my eyes out, because I'm thinking, somebody who we haven't even worked with directly, just through the content that we put out there to try and support people, has made $1 million and changed their life. So I'm getting choked up. Changed their lives for them and their family. Like that, if that's not a reminder of what we do and why we do it, then I don't know what is.
That's making me, it gave me goosebumps, making me like cry a little bit. That's beautiful.
That's amazing, huh?
That is just amazing. Yeah. I mean, that's got to make you feel so good. Just like reaffirms your purpose,
Very much so. It made me feel very emotional. Actually, I was pretty overwhelmed for about a 12-hour period. I couldn't talk about it or think about it without crying. Which was, and I'm
like the kind of guy that cries much either.
No, I'm not. I usually only cry when my football team lose. But other than that, like, not really. But I kept getting really sort of choked up by it because, I think it was the fact that he achieved that. But I think it was also the fact that he went out of his way to come and find me to tell me that was really powerful. Because I then actually sat and thought, like, how many people's books have I read or interviews have I listened to that I found incredibly powerful, and I never took the time to tell them?
Yeah, that's a good point. Wow. So tell us a little bit about like this program that you have. So you're a business and sports consultant. So your knowledge and what you consult on is something you're taking and you're parlaying it across the world, right? How you've touched this man's life. So
For sure.
How did that start? What did that look like for you? And what has made you so successful in how you give people this knowledge?
Oh, wow. Good questions. How did it start? Purely by accident, the same way most things start, I guess. So I was working in the corporate world, and my wife got pregnant and my mum got diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. So we had to leave Cape Town where we were, and I was loving life there, and come to the UK. And I really didn't want to work for anybody. Like, I'd kind of had enough of the corporate world at this point. Plus, all the jobs I kept getting offered were like Middle East and North Africa and the whole of Europe. And I'm thinking, if I'm coming to be with my pregnant wife and near my mother, then a job that has me on the road 6 days a week isn't very helpful. So I decided to set up my own business. But having only ever worked in the corporate world, rather naively, I had no idea how to run a business. Like I didn't know you had to win clients. That was news to me. I didn't know that that sometimes clients don't pay invoices on time. That was a whole new thing to me too. I didn't know that sometimes people say yes on the phone and then don't sign up. Like people are laughing at this, but I mean, I never knew this. I worked for some of the biggest brands in the world. Like my way of business development was read the emails that people have sent us and pick a project.
Yeah.
It was never go out and find the project. So anyway, so I'd previously grown and sold the 2 sports podcasting networks at this point, and I realized that actually podcasting was an incredibly powerful tool for business development. I could meet anybody I wanted in a VIP network setting. You know, everyone else is queuing up to get a book signed by their favorite author. I'm inviting them onto a podcast and getting to know them over 30 to 60 minutes. Like, it's brilliant. Yeah. So I did a very primitive strategy, and the strategy was create a list of the top 100 clients that I wanted to work with and invite each of their CEOs onto a podcast to build a relationship with them, talk to them about themselves, talk to them about their business, the 2 things they love to speak about the most.
Yep.
Fast forward 3 months, I've now got 21 people working for me full-time globally because I've bitten off way more than I can chew in terms of the business development, and we were flying. So grew and sold both of those businesses within a few years. They were very successful. I was really pleased with them. I had some money in the bank, but I was way too young to retire, and it wasn't going to last me like the next 50 years, right? It was some good money, but it wasn't going to sustain my lifestyle forever. Yeah. And I had no idea what I wanted to do. And then people started to come to me and saying, how did you get that client? How did you get that TV show? How did you get that keynote speaking gig? And I got so sick of saying I met them on a podcast.
Yeah.
That I thought I'll just teach people how to do this. Yeah. So Billionaires in Boxers, albeit a different name, originally started as a consultancy to show people how to grow their authority in their business using the podcast in the exact same way that I did. Yeah. But then it kind of evolved from there, because as we were evolving, we had more to teach. So then we became a radio show, and then we became a television show, and then we took over the television network. So it started off as we were teaching steps 1 through 5. Well, now we teach steps 1 through 10 while we're learning 11, 12, 13, 14. And then once we figured that out, we'll teach 1 through 14 and then carry on with 15. And I like that. So that's kind of where we've grown to. So been ranked number 1 in the world in that space now for the past 5 years, which is just phenomenal. Yeah, it's funny because once you get there, it's like you kind of feel like it's a destination. It's really not. It's like a way of life. Like when you're at the top of your industry, every day you're there to be shot at. Like the way that I describe it to my team is, we were number 1 yesterday. Today we still have to fight for it. And I think that's what's really kept us on our toes, is learning and earning constantly. We never do one of more or the other. We're always focused on learning and earning in equal measure, and that way we continue to move our game forward.
I love that.
So it's a lot of fun. So that's kind of what brings us to where we do today. So, a lot of people will come to us at different levels of business, but we primarily work with people in the B2B space who are kind of consistently achieving 7 figures, looking to surpass 8. Okay. I'm really good at that space. I know my wheelhouse. Like, that's the bit I'm really good at. I'm not the person you want to come to if you own $1 billion company and say, what do we do? Because I'm going to tell you I don't know. But at that point, like, that's the bit that we're best at. So I say this to people all the time. I'm not the manager. I'm a terrible manager, actually. I had to hire one in my business because I'm really bad at it. I'm a high level thinker. I'm not a good manager. I get too emotional. And plus I have very high standards of myself, which I then project onto other people, which isn't healthy. So I need a manager. Yeah. I'm also not the person to design your systems in the background, because whilst I have, can use systems, I'm not the CRM guy. In fact, jokingly, in my last salary position, I won an award, and I came up on stage and they said, Phil's been the first person to ever make $14 million in 1 month. But according to the CRM, he's not spoken to anybody in 12 months because I hadn't updated the CRM ever. I never used it. So I'm not the systems guy. But when it comes to lead generation, sales, and authority, like, I'm the best at that. That's my wheelhouse. That's where I get really excited. And what I find is a lot of businesses actually struggle with that. Like, they're really good at what they do, but they're spending low. Why do
you think that is? I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
Why people aren't good at it?
Yeah. Why do you think they struggle with that?
I think it's because it's not their skill set, is it? I mean, people go into business because they're good at a particular thing and they want to deliver more of that thing. So they want to spend 80% plus of their time working on their superpower. And what they find instead is they spend 80% of their time working on sales, marketing, and lead gen so they can spend 20% of their time on their superpower. And that's frustrating. And I've seen lots of businesses and lots of great business people fail because of that, because like they were their industry's best kept secret. Nobody knew they existed. And for me, I take real pleasure in being able to come in and help them to tweak and design a process and a system that allows them to flip that. So 20% of their time is now going to be spent on a system that produces more leads than they know what to do with, while simultaneously raising their credibility and their authority so that they can focus 80% of their time on their superpower. I stay away from the superpower. That's the thing that they're best at. You know, if we think of it as a sports capacity, you know, in let's talk soccer for a minute. If you're a great striker, I'm the winger. Let me put the ball in. Let me give you the ball in the box so you can score some goals. Don't worry about coming out. Don't worry about looking for the ball. Don't worry about tackling. Just stand there and score. That's what I'm here for.
I love it. Today's episode is brought to you by Honeylove. Ladies, let's talk about shapewear. We all know most shapewear makes you feel like you're being suffocated. That sexy dress in the back of your closet is so freaking cute, but the thought of having your inside squished by your shapewear is just not worth it. That's why Honeylove spent years researching and developing effective shapewear that's actually comfortable. Overly tight, cheap, and sticky fabrics that roll up are a thing of the past. Thanks to Honeylove, you can finally feel confident and comfortable in your favorite outfits. We have an exclusive deal for our listeners. For a limited time only, you can get Honeylove's best deal they offer. Get 20% off your entire order with the code LabelFree20 at honeylove.com. That's right, ladies. Get 20% off of your entire order with LabelFree20 at honeylove.com. So are there any, is there a specific type of industry that you are better in than others, or are you good across the board with your consultancy?
Yeah, I've certainly found some areas where we're stronger than others. So I think I've always been much better at B2B than I am at B2C. I like the business world and business to business level conversations. I enjoy that space. And I think even when I left the world of sport, I stayed involved in the commercial aspects of sport. And then I went and retrained as a surveyor, evaluation surveyor. So I was only ever in the B2B space. So I'm used to professional services and B2B. So we've had some success in B2C, but if I'm honest, I don't really enjoy it. I don't get the same kick from it. I don't find it as challenging, I think is probably it. And I like a challenge.
So I was strong in the B2B space, but I think it's harder with B2C.
I think
it's more hard because like when you're dealing with the customer, you know, if you're trying to sell a product to a customer, that's more emotional than it is.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Yeah. That's definitely true. I was thinking more about processes. A lot of the processes aren't more difficult within B2C, but you're right. I mean, I always say to people, it's just as easy to sell $1 million product as it is to sell a $10 product. So, you know, if you're working B2C, often you need to be selling millions of products to be profitable because, you know, you're selling them at a low margin, high turnover, you know, industry. However, well, it depends on the sector, of course, but B2C tends to need to shift a lot more product or service. Yeah. Whereas in B2B, you can have an incredibly successful consultancy that's got 1 or 2 clients paying you multiple millions of dollars a year. And all you had to do was build 2 really good relationships out of that. So in that respect, that's easier because you get to use the superpower of relationship building, whereas it's kind of difficult to use the power of relationship building with your customers, because how are you going to build a relationship with each individual customer? That's more of a challenge.
Very much so. Very much so. So what would be one like tip or some advice you'd give to any entrepreneur that's listening? Because a majority of my audience is entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
In regards to lead generation, what would be one thing that you would tell them that you could offer them as some advice?
Yeah, I love that. I'll give you the overview and then I'll give you an action step that you can actually do with it. So if everybody else is going right, you've got to go left. It is the first one. So let me give you an example of that. Everybody else is take. And most people, if you're listening to this and you're an entrepreneur, you'll be on LinkedIn. We've all seen this, right? You connect on LinkedIn, someone sends you a War and Peace style sales pitch, or, hey, I've got the perfect stuff for you, buy my stuff, right? They don't know you. They don't know if this is the perfect product for you. This is terrible. But what do people do? They try and replicate that model. They go on LinkedIn and they start spamming out to people trying to do this. Well, think about law of reciprocity instead of what you can take. So when you think about law of reciprocity, I use a formula that I call give, give, get. You give twice before you get. So what can I give to somebody twice so that when it comes time for me to get something, they willingly and graciously want to give me that thing because I've given something to them twice before? What does that look like? Right? And in the world of business development and lead generation, that's often, can you play the connection currency game? Is there something that person's working on that you can add value to? Do you have a podcast, a platform, an article, a blog, a LinkedIn Live that you can invite somebody to, giving them additional exposure? What can you give to this person that means that while everybody else is trying to take, you stand out because you're giving and giving? And I'm not just saying just give, like, there you go, give freely to the whole world and see what happens. I mean, I do believe in karma, but that's not even what I'm saying here. When I talk about this give, give, get formula, for me, this often happens in the space of like an hour. Like, we're not talking a long-term thing here. We're talking, hey, saw what you're doing with this project. I actually know somebody really cool in this space that has a few stages and platforms. Let me know if you'd like some introductions. I also have a network. I'd love to maybe bring you on, do an interview. I don't charge for that. Let's get to know each other, blah, 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 blah. By the way, who do you know that might be interested in this? This is what I'm currently working on. Who do you know? There's my give, give, get formula, because 9 times out of 10, people raise their hand and go, yeah, me, I'm interested in that. Yeah. Right. And if they don't, instead of it being a yes or no, like, hey, are you interested in buying my stuff? Yeah. It goes from a closed question to an open question. So the open question is now, who do you know? So because I've given them 2 things that they wanted to begin with, they're now going, wait, who do I know? I know this person, and I can introduce you. Now, I actually started a networking event called Profitable Networking Monthly. It's completely free for people to attend. It gets about 2,000 people signed up every time we do it, which is phenomenal. People virtual? From all over, yeah, virtual, all on Zoom. Yeah, all on Zoom. It started during the pandemic, and it's just been growing ever since. It's free to attend, but it always produces at least $200,000 worth of new business for us. So I mean, how can I not love this? Right. But there's no pitching. It's not a pitch fest. That's not what this is. It's the law of reciprocity, give, give, get. It's what do you working on? What do you need? Who do I know that can help you? And then someone's going to do the same to me. And we're going to go around these breakout sessions and keep swapping and changing. Right. Now we're talking about leads. Now we're talking about referrals. Now we're talking about stages and podcasts. Who has a stage in a podcast? How many? And people leave these events and I get messages off the back end of it. People say, I booked 15 interviews off the back of that and won 2 new clients. Like, I've just picked up a partner that we're going to do $1 million a year together. Like, this is amazing. And it's because everyone else is going right, I'm going left. Everyone else is saying, come to my webinar and I'm going to sell you something. I'm saying, come to this event. There's no selling allowed. Let's just get to know each other and see what comes out of it.
I love that. Yeah, no, there's a local networking event that they went virtual with the pandemic that I used to go in person all the time. And they had me as one of the speakers. I was like, and I walked away from that and it was just like telling them a little bit about what I do, my backstory. I wasn't pitching anybody and I mean, my inbox, my email blew up.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
And it was just because you talk and you meet people and they're interested in what you're doing and just things evolve from there. So it was, I really love that. I would be interested in going to that.
You should come. I'll send you an invite. In fact, I'll share it with you and you can pop an invite in the link to the podcast. So anybody listening that wants to come drop in, come say hi. I'm going to warn you, it's a longer networking event. It started off at 90 minutes and then I got moaned at that it was too short. So then it was 3 hours, and then I got moaned at it was too short. So now it's 4 hours, right? And I still get people to leave. I don't get mad at anyone. But here's what happens every single time. I'll tell you a funny story, right? I still get people moaning at me that they want like a whole day thing. People saying, "Can we do a 2-day thing instead?" It's mad. I'm like, this starts at like 10 p.m. for me, guys. Give me a break. It's 4 hours. I'm already going to bed at like 2-3 o'clock in the morning. But here's the really funny thing that happens. Every single person, bar none, that I talked to about the event says something like, let me come to the event, but I don't think I can stay for all 4 hours. Yeah. And then the very next thing that happens is they go, that was amazing. I'm staying for all 4 hours next time. And then they never miss a single minute of any others moving forward. Because I've literally had people sat on the call saying, I've just canceled my next call so I can stay here. And it's like, I love it. So it's so much fun. And, you just meet great people. And I'm a very literal thinker. So I was thinking, what do we call this thing? So I called it Profitable Networking Monthly. Right.
Is it once a month?
Yeah, well, it's supposed to be once a month. It's now actually every 2 months, and I'll tell you why. And this isn't even a good excuse, but it's the real reason. It generates so much leads for us, so many leads for us, that I need the 2 months to be able to finish all the leads for our business that come from each event. Because otherwise, I'm meeting people at the next one, and they're like, "Oh, I've got a call with you booked in 2 weeks already from the last one."
Yeah.
And so we ended up kind of saying, let's do it every 6 to 8 weeks instead, and that's working out much better for us.
Excellent. Well, I'm interested in going. So, we're like past time, which is okay. We've been having a great conversation. Where can people find you, connect with you, and learn more?
Great. Well, firstly, thank you for having me. A lot of fun being here. You can, Google my name or the business name, and you'll find us everywhere. The best place to get in contact with me, because I'm letting the cat out of the bag here. The only one of my social media pages that I actually have anything to do with myself is LinkedIn. So if you want to follow on LinkedIn, I always check the comments. I'm the person always responding. If you want to drop us a message on there, we'll pick up a conversation. Can't guarantee we can connect because I keep going over my 30,000 allowance. So LinkedIn keeps shouting at me, but you can always follow us on there and check out our content and come check out the event. That'd be really cool. I'm sure the link's in the chat below, so you can go check that out. I have one question for you before we go. I always like to ask this at the end of a podcast. As the host, what was your biggest aha moment? What was the thing that was of most interest from the interview today?
From you today, your desire to impact lives and help them have a better quality of life within business. So
love that
you shared what you're getting ready to do. I think that's amazing. So we are very aligned and kind of our purpose. We just do it differently. You know what I mean? And that's why I started my podcast, was to impact lives and to hopefully change them for the better. And so
love that.
I didn't get that at first when I read your bio, but I'm like, I love you're just very diverse and everything. So, but to learn that was an aha, like, oh, wow, that's really great. So
great.
But I have, before we start, last words of wisdom or advice.
Stop waiting to be discovered and invite yourself.
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a new one I've never heard before. Sorry, Teddy Bear. That's my people. He's got a lot to say right now because there's people outside. So we'll have to, but can you say that again?
Yeah, of course.
Teddy. Okay, last words of wisdom or advice.
Okay. Stop waiting to be discovered and invite yourself.
Yes, I love that. That is great. I'm inviting myself. Can I come?
You certainly can.
Phil, this has been awesome. Thank you for being such a dynamic guest today. I love what you're doing. The conversation was amazing. Love to stay connected and have you back to update the audience because I'm sure you got a lot going on. So we want to hear more.
We must. No, thank you so much, and thank you to your audience. And hopefully we'll see some of you at Profitable Networking Monthly as well.
Excellent. Absolutely. You guys, this is your host, Deanna Radulescu with Label Free Podcasts. Live your best life. You must live label free. Please don't forget to subscribe, follow, rate, review, comment, share, all those good things. And I'll be back soon with more dynamic.